Hello guys and welcome back to week 7 of Big Brother 27, and I am super excited to talk about this week because this is the first week that I've actually properly watched feeds. I was in the time zone, I was in Jamaica, so I was able to actually watch the feeds whilst they were happening at a reasonable time, because usually when all the good shit's happening, it's like 2 in the morning for me, so I can't watch it. However, I was out there, I was watching, I was enjoying it, and I did watch the entire wall competition from start to finish, so that was really exciting. But anyway, we are going to get in. Apologies for the last 2 episodes being poor quality or just different lighting and things like that. I need to catch up, and I am all caught up now, so you should be getting this midweek, and then the next episode will be coming out by the end of week 8. I'm super excited to talk to you. I'm super excited to get into this. Let's get going. So after Riley left, the house is in complete and utter turmoil. I mean, everybody is shooketh. It was a very close vote. It was 5-4. 4 people in that house chose to vote Morgan out over Riley, and Morgan has stayed. And she's a little bit like, a little bit awkward. I mean, Mickey is acting like she shouldn't have voted for Morgan to stay. And I'm a little bit like, but isn't Morgan like your number one? I think Mickey got very, very close to Riley in the last like week for some weird, obscure reason. So I don't really know what's going on there. But Mickey, your priority should surely be Morgan more than Riley, right? Because Riley would never, ever prioritize you, whereas Morgan probably would. And this whole experience has kind of soured your relationship, I feel like. But anyway, Keanu is on the warpath. Vince was obviously one of the swing votes that managed to get Riley out. And it's obviously because he's part of this Judges Alliance. And he can't tell Keanu this. So what he decides to tell Keanu is, yeah, Riley was coming after you. And is that the truth? Well, yes and no. It's being economical with the truth. It's bending it slightly to have its desired effect. Did Riley explicitly say, I'm coming after Keanu? No. But did he say, Keanu's a threat, we might have to take a look at that at some point? Or words to that effect? Yes, that did happen. So there are moments in this episode where I was like, oh, Keanu, you are actually just being a little bit thick and a little bit dumb. And especially last week when they were trying to convince him Riley needs to go, especially Rachel. And he was like, nah, he'd never come after me. Well, we did see some footage that said otherwise. So I feel like that is not the greatest thing. And if I'm being 100% honest, Rachel did also try to smooth things over, and it seems like everything's fine. But this house is so temperamental, it's always so up in the air that you never actually know, do people actually mean what they're saying? Or is this just an elaborate ploy to mess with the other side of the house? It's always so confusing, and this week, it's so much more evident than it's ever been before. So like I said, I watched the entire wall competition from start to finish. It was on about 11:30 p.m. at night, which would have been like 5 in the morning for me if I was back at home. But I managed to watch it whilst I was out in Jamaica, and I watched it for the entire hour and a quarter that it was on. I had the best time watching it. I was reading at the same time, so every time I was like hearing commotion, I'd be like, oh, hello. And it was so entertaining. I watched pretty much everybody drop. I didn't see Morgan drop, so when Fees came back up and she was off, I was like, what? Excuse me? Wasn't she meant to win this for us? For our team? Anyway, moving on. It was so funny to watch Rachel having to repeat her lines. Like oh look, there's a rainstorm incoming. And then she'd do it again and she'd be like, oh look, there's a rainstorm incoming. And she'd like put different inflections on different words. I was like, I didn't realize that it was so produced like this. But it actually makes so much sense that they do it like this, because Big Brother US is a lot more produced than any other reality show that I watch. And that's because it's like bombastic, it's big, it's got these crazy challenges that it does call for that kind of thing to happen. But because I've never actually watched it on feeds, I've never known it to be this way. But it was just so entertaining to watch. Anyway, let's get into actually talking about the wall. Ashley and Will dropped first at 29 minutes 43, which already was almost as long as the last 2 or 3 competitions for the wall. I mean, last year, I think they managed 30 minutes, 31 at a push. So, you know what? The fact that Ashley and Will stayed up there for almost the entire competition of last year's wall. Incredible. Then Morgan dropped at 33.45. And then there was a big gap. I was waiting for like 15 minutes. And then Mickey dropped at 50.24. And then Ava dropped at 52.51. So by like 52 minutes in, 53 minutes even, all of Rachel's allies are sat on the side. And I'm sitting here going, we're trying to keep Rachel safe this week. And what are we doing? Like, actually, what are we doing here? I've seen a lot of people say that Rachel is making this season not fun, but I genuinely feel like this season would be so much less enjoyable if she wasn't there to just cut through some bullshit and provide us with an anchor that is like, oh yeah, you're obviously the only sane one in this house. Surely. You, Will, and Ashley are the only sane ones in this house. Everybody else is just batshit crazy. But anyway, Kelly ended up falling at 59.17 because she was doing some weird stretching and then she kind of just like pinged off the board. It was so funny because I was watching her doing all these like fancy stretching moves and then she just fell and I was like, what? And obviously I'm watching this live and I'm thinking, oh my god. Okay, there's 4 people left. Catherine and Lauren, that's worst case. Keanu, probably best case for saving Rachel. And then Vince could go either way. He could stay true to the Judges Alliance or he could flip-flop and put Rachel up. I don't know. So then Keanu goes down at 1 hour and 3 minutes and I'm thinking, oh, for fuck's sake. And I understand why he fell because he obviously was like, oh, I'm good with everybody on the wall. But I was like, goodness sake, Keanu, get back on that wall. And then Lauren fell at 1 hour 9 and then Catherine fell at 1 hour 14 and Vince won head of household. Watching him win was a little bit of like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but he was unmovable. I did not expect Vince to be as good at this competition as he was. Like, he kind of slayed, like, really, really well. I was very, very impressed, and he kind of deserved to win this competition. He did incredibly well, and you kind of have to give him credit where credit's due. So, the issue with a Vince head of household is that he tells everybody what they want to hear. And so, when I'm watching on feeds or I'm keeping updated on Twitter, I can never properly tell who he's lying to, who he's not lying to, because he's telling everybody what they want to hear. Keanu's coming to him and being like, hey, we should put up Rachel. And Vince is like, great idea. And then Morgan's coming to him and being like, hey, put Mickey up. And he's like, great idea. And then he's like to Rachel, don't worry, I would never put you or any of the judges up. And I'm thinking, I don't know who you're lying to. Because obviously, this new Judges Alliance is very, very new. It's so new, in fact, that it hasn't had a time to properly establish itself. So this is the week in which Vince has a big choice to make. Does he stick with this alliance of 5 and ride it out and get rid of all of his allies, his previous allies? Or does he mix it up and then cause a half of the house to be pissed off at him? Either way, he's pissing off a half of the house, and it's just an impossible situation for him to be in. As the kind of game player that he is, he's playing a very interesting game, and one that I haven't seen on the show in a while. And it's the kind of, oh my god, my actions are so poor. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. Oh, I really shouldn't have done that. Oh, silly me. Silly me. And we're going to see this throughout the rest of this week especially. I didn't notice it until, I think, the last 2 weeks when he started getting put up. But, wow, he is a snivelling bastard. But I kind of like it. I don't lie. I can't lie. It is interesting to watch him just have this weird way of talking to people. So Vince ends up confronting Mickey and basically says, Ayo, listen, I've heard that you have had a hand in putting me up week 5. Okay, when Ava was up there as head of household, you had a hand in putting me up on the block. Okay, and you also have a great social game, so I'm gonna put you on the block. And Mickey's like, what about our alliance? What about our alliance? What about the melting pot? What about me, you, and Morgan? That was meant to be a little trio with Zach. Zach was our 4th, but obviously he gone now. So what happened to that alliance? And Vince is like, oh my god, sorry, that's just me being kooky and crazy. I completely forgot about every single alliance I've ever made. He forgot about like Kelly's final two, which I found so funny. He forgot about that last week. That was ridiculous. And I just feel like bro's making alliances with every person he possibly can, but it's coming back to bite him in the ass because, like I said, he's promising everybody the world, but he can't deliver the world to every single person. So, nominations come out, and I was pleasantly surprised by who he nominated. First of all, he nominated Kelly. Then he nominated Ava. And then he nominated Mickey. And I feel like these three are very, very good nominees. Kelly is a house threat. We need to get her out of the house. I'm sick and tired of this woman. Mickey, she's chaos, but she's good for the people that I like. And Ava's becoming more and more of a wild card, but that's purely because I don't think she's playing a very good game. She doesn't seem to have great connections with the power players in the house, which are like Rachel and Ashley and even Will to an extent. Those three are in a very, very good position. But Ava is like trying to go over to the other side. And I'm thinking, why are you trying to flip-flop to a side that probably wouldn't have had your back had you not been in that position last week? Do you know what I mean? I just feel like it's a very odd way of playing for Ava, but we'll see how that works out for her. So, obviously, Mickey is not happy about being put up on the block. And in her confessional, she says one of the best lines because... genuinely, she started off and I was like, oh, I'm rooting for Mickey, and then I was like, oh, Mickey needs to go, and now I'm back to Mickey's great TV. She actually is. She's a messy queen and she's a great villain. I feel like in week 4 and 5 I was like, ugh, I don't like her. The villain is not villaining. It's just gross. The way she's talking about Rachel is not fair. But then I think, like, you know what? I'd probably be saying the same thing. Maybe not exactly to the same extent, obviously, but I would be pissed off and bitchy if I was put up on the block, and I would be just saying random shit. So you have to give people some sort of space to be like, yo, it's not the end of the world. We can move on. But what Mickey said was, I understand why it took Vince 10 years to get on the show, because he's unqualified. And I was like, slay. Big slay. Big slay. Do I think Mickey's a big move this week? Not particularly. Not even slightly. But you have to give Vince credit. He's trying to keep the Judges Alliance safe. None of them have been up on the block yet, or like in his HOH. So therefore, he's staying true to them. But obviously, there is still a veto in play. But Mickey also said to Morgan, she was like kicking off and being like, hey, you're meant to have like Vince's ear. Why didn't you defend me? Why didn't you not put me up? And Morgan sat there like, you literally came up to me and said to other people that you regret voting Riley out, which means you would have voted me out. So, like, why am I saving you? Why am I saving you, Mickey? This is just going to be a little quick Will, yay, we love you. But there was another segment where Will just owns the fact that he just does not give a fuck about these people. And I kind of have to respect it. He was sat there and he was like, I love my DVR. I love my DVR. I wish I could fast forward some people in this house. And then they're like, fast forward a conversation that was just dreadfully boring. And then he's like, and then I wish I could rewind some other bits because I'm just not listening. And then they show a rewind bit. And I just thought this was so funny. And then they showed a bit of him pausing so he could go get some snacks. I was like, yeah, this is such a funny segment. And it just makes me love Will even more. I'm kind of here for Will to be like America's favourite player because I wanted to root for him coming into this show. But the older people that we get on this show are sometimes so dreadfully boring. Like Terrence in BB24. I don't remember a thing about him. Kenny last season. Come on. But then Will this season, 10 out of 10. Amazing personality. We need more of him in the house. Do you know what I mean? More people like him. More vibrant, older personalities. Because that is what makes Big Brother so exciting. Is seeing such an eclectic group of people mixing in this melting pot of madness. So, veto was actually a very, very interesting concept. It was hysterically camp, it was overacted to the gods, and I have to say, I really, really enjoyed watching it because it was tense. There was a lot riding on this line. You've got Keanu and other people on that side of the house trying to push for a Rachel renom. You've got Vince unsure what he's going to do, and then you've got the other half of the house who are wanting to keep noms the same. So, it genuinely was a chaotic display of madness. But there was a lot of drama that came out from this, purely because you got to pick who you could possibly eliminate, and some people were not picking smartly. So this game was basically carrot in a box. If you've never played carrot in a box, it's fairly simple. There are two boxes. One person looks inside their box. If they have a carrot, they want to keep the carrot. If they don't have a carrot, they want to persuade the other person to swap the box. It's ideally like that. But this time, it was to do with poison chalices. One of them was poisoned, one of them was not. The person with the power is the person who is not the one that knows which one is poisoned and can swap at will. So therefore, our first round was Ava versus Keanu. And Ava was the one who brought the glasses out and forgot which one had the poison and ended up accidentally poisoning herself. And I was thinking, God's sake, honestly, what a ridiculous, ridiculous situation. Then it was Mickey versus Kelly, and Mickey was poisoned. Then it was Vince versus Will, and Will obviously drank the poison. So therefore, at the end of the first round, we have 3 people poisoned, 3 people not poisoned. Then Keanu chose Will. Keanu poisoned himself. Kelly versus Mickey, and Kelly poisoned herself because Mickey was smarter than her and was able to suss it out. And then I've got to turn over the page. Sorry, guys. Then Vinny chose Ava at the end of round 2, and Ava died and was out. Then, for some unknown reason, Kelly chose Vinny, and I was like, what are you doing? Surely you would want to get Mickey out. Surely we want Mickey not to get this veto, right? But instead, Vinny got poisoned. Then Keanu chose Will. Again, why are we not choosing Mickey? Mickey didn't get chosen in round 3, so therefore she got a bye to the next round. No one picked her, so she didn't have to drink a poison chalice. She got to go to like the final round just by default. And Keanu got switched on, and then Will was dead. So that was crazy. So Ava's dead, Will's dead. Then we come into the final round, and Vince is going directly to Morgan, and Keanu's like, nah, come to me, bro. Come to me. And I'm like, why? Let's get Mickey out of here. And Keanu in his confession was like, I don't want Vince's target to be so obvious. And I was like, but we don't want Mickey to win, right? We don't want her to win. So what's this logic here? What's going on? How are we explaining this away? Because this is not working for me. But anyway, it's what it is. Keanu ended up fucking up and then died. And then Mickey chose Kelly, and then Kelly died. And then it was Mickey versus Vinny in the final, and Vinny ended up dying, meaning that Mickey won the veto. This was worst case scenario for the household, was Mickey winning veto. Because now, anybody could go up. Anybody and their mum could go up. And anybody could go home. Because Mickey was the easy vote out. Mickey was the easy, if she doesn't win Blockbuster, she's going home. She's going home. Bye-bye, bitches. She's going home. And now, she's safe. So what's that going to do to the house? Oh, wait. Cause chaos. Before we get into the whole Vince deciding who he's going to renom situation, let's talk about Winegate and Huggate. Because, again, I watched these on feeds, and I was just like, this is so petty and ridiculous. And it's just made me dislike Kelly even more. I already don't like her. I don't like the cult that she's formed outside with the whole cut for Kelly, heal for Kelly, donate to charity for Kelly, like help the environment for Kelly. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Because there's nothing that she's shown me that has made me go, yeah, I want to stand her. I want to defend her. I want to cut myself for her. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So when Rachel is sat at the table and they're going round the table, I think it was Lauren's birthday this day, and they were going around the table and they were like, oh my god, I love you so much, you're so amazing, blah 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 blah. And Rachel's just sipping her wine and being like, I need more wine, I need more wine. I need more wine if I'm going to listen to this bullshit. Because obviously she knows it's all fake. It's sucking up to Vince at the end of the day so that they don't get put up on the block. And Rachel's over that bullshit. So she finishes the wine. And then when she's gone, someone's like, oh, where's the rest of the wine gone? And then Kay's like, Rachel drank the rest of it. She needed it to put up with all of you guys like talking. And I was like, why are we making this into a big deal? Yeah, obviously, I would be the same. I don't want to listen to bullshit coming out of your mouth. I don't care about it. And then later, they're all sat outside. And obviously, it's got back to her that Kelly has been sort of bad-mouthing her and sort of making her a kind of scapegoat for the whole situation. So when Kelly's like, hey, can I give you a hug to say goodnight? Rachel goes, no. And I think that's fair and valid. You shouldn't expect a hug. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't expect someone to hug you just because you asked for it. And then Kelly's like, oh, are you upset with me? Is it this? Is it that? Why are you being so rude? Etc, etc. And I'm like, she doesn't owe you anything, Kelly. She owes you nothing. So why are we having this conversation? Honestly, I think this girl needs to leave the house, because the more I watch of her, the more I'm like, you are just so frustrating to watch. So Vince's dilemma is a tricky one, because you've got Lauren, Kelly, Keanu and Catherine going, hey, nominate Rachel. And then you've got Rachel's side of the house and the judges and Mickey being like, hey, nominate Catherine. That's the smart option. And Vince is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Now, the edit didn't do a good job of showing this, but Morgan, Mickey, Ashley, Rachel, they put in a shift. They put in a shift trying to get Rachel to stay in this house and trying not to get her nommed. They were there day and night with Vince, talking through all the options, persuading him, keeping him on track, and most of that has to go to Morgan. Their relationship is getting a little bit blurred, and I will talk more about this in week 8. However, there were a lot of bedtime hugs. There was a lot of cuddling in bed, and there's a lot of conversation outside of the house about Vince's girlfriend. So, yeah, little bit awkward, a little bit crazy. However, for the purposes of the game, it worked, because obviously Rachel did not go up on the block this week. But the fact that the entire, lead up to that final nominations, I was just seeing, oh, Vince is telling Lauren, I'm putting up Rachel. Oh, Vince is telling Keanu, I'm putting up Rachel. Oh, but Vince is telling Mickey and Morgan, oh yeah, I'll put up Catherine. I was so baffled, I was so confused, and until that notification came through on my phone that Catherine was the renom, whew, I was stressed. I was very, very stressed indeed. So the veto ceremony went as follows. Mickey obviously took herself down. If she didn't, I think that would have been the dumbest move in history, and it would have just been a dreadful, dreadful... Anyway, moving on. I think putting Catherine up was the smart choice for Vince, because the issue with the whole situation that we saw was that he couldn't bank on the fact that if he puts Catherine up and she goes home, I don't think that the other side of the house that he's just betrayed would nominate him. Okay? I'm wrong, but I didn't think at the time. Whereas if they decided to go against the judges, if Vince decided to go against them, they would have absolutely put Vince up on the block. And I think that's what he was judging. He was like, hey, I just want to make jury. I just want to make jury, and then we can discuss from there what happens. So if this means that I get safety next week, then it is what it is. And honestly, I think he made the right choice for his game. I think Kelly was the person that I wanted to go home over Catherine, but we'll see how that all shakes out. One thing that people do is not check their environments very well. And it is very frustrating when you're having game conversations to not just do a cheeky little scan of the room. Oh, is there anybody in here that I'm about to bitch about and talk about that might not want to hear this? Because both Ashley and Lauren did this in the same episode, and I was like, what are we doing here, guys? Check your environments, please. You had Ashley talking to Catherine being like, hey, if you're sat up on the block next to Kelly, I'll vote for you to stay, don't worry. And then turns around and Kelly's there. Kelly's heard it. She's like, fuck, oh my god, oh my goodness, oh wow, what? And then Lauren and Ashley are having a conversation a little bit later about potentially evicting Ava. And Ava is asleep in the room, listening to the entire conversation. I was like, guys, please, for the love of God, rule 1 of Big Brother. Check your surroundings when you're having these kind of conversations. Because otherwise, it's ridiculous. It's just, what? Honestly, it's just absolutely just silly of them. And Lauren then started spiraling. And I was like, oh, this is the most I've ever seen this girl talk. And she had a whole ass HOH and a veto. And this is the most I've seen her talk, is when she was spiraling about Ava hearing her. There's a lot of talk in the house about the fact that Kelly, Lauren, Catherine, and Keanu are the underdogs in the house. They are anything but the underdogs, okay? Let's just put it plainly and simply. They are just a victim of their own stupidity at the end of the day. The other half of the house, they're put together, they're organised, they know what they're doing. But the underdogs, they've won pretty much every competition. Aside from Ashley winning a competition, Rachel winning an HOH, Mickey didn't even win a competition to get her HOH, and she's won a veto as well. Ava won at head of household. I think that might be it. I think that's all of the competition wins on that side. Keanu, he's won like 2.5 vetoes. Vince, he's won 2 head of households. You've got Kelly, who's won like 500 million blockbusters. I'm not counting her veto win because, you know what? It's a piss take. But purely because, does it count as a win? Yeah. Does it count as a veto win? It was a safety win at the end of the day, let's be honest. It wasn't exactly hard to complete that challenge. But you get what I mean. It's a ridiculous way of framing it that, oh, we're the underdogs. You've won pretty much every single competition that has been in this house. And yet, you're still losing because your strategy is all up the wall. You haven't got a clue what's going on. You don't know what you're doing and you're all over the place. And that's why your allies keep going home, because the other side of the house is gaming and they're gaming hard. So we come to the blockbuster. And the blockbuster, when Julie presented it on her Instagram, proved to be actually a very interesting way of doing it. A little bit like a pinball machine, but you have these slots and you had to build the pinball machine in order to get the thing to the bottom. It was interesting and I was like, oh, this could actually be quite tense. Kelly did it first time and I was like, what are we doing here? Like, actually, what are we doing? She literally just put all the pieces into place and it like just slotted in perfectly. And I was like, what? And the frustrating thing is that Ava was like 2 seconds behind her. If Kelly had been 2 seconds slower, Ava would have won it. And that's what's really frustrating about this blockbuster. I feel like the blockbuster, there's a lot of talk about, is it a good function? Is it not a good function? I think it saved the last 2 seasons from being boringly predictable. I feel like there would have been moments where Kelly would have gone like week 2 and we would have been like, okay, cool. And I feel like it just would have changed the dynamic. We don't want a repeat of BB25 where on Monday, when the veto ceremony happens, you know who is going home on Thursday. That is not how you should be playing Big Brother. That is not entertaining. That's what's so exciting about the British version, is that because the public are voting, you don't know who's going home until they announce it on eviction night. So when I'm watching on feeds and I'm listening and I'm understanding and all of this stuff, and on Monday I already know who's going home, like I did with BB25, what's the point? What is the point of spending the next 2 days being excited about game talk when there is no game talk? They've already decided who's getting the chop. It's boring. So the blockbuster has to stay, sadly. So let's get to voting time. Voting time was very, very interesting. It's Catherine versus Ava. Kelly has saved herself. Kelly voted for Catherine. That was a shock to me. Rachel voted for Catherine. Ashley voted for Catherine. Will voted for Catherine. Mickey voted for Catherine. Morgan voted for Catherine. Keanu voted for Catherine, which also surprised me. And Lauren voted for Ava. So at the end, it was a vote of 7-1. Do I think that was predictable? No. I actually thought it was going to be 5-3, if I'm being 100% honest. However, if we know that the rest of the house are going to be voting out Catherine, the smart choice is to vote Catherine out with them so that you don't make an enemy out of Ava. Okay? And Lauren, I don't think she'll have made an enemy out of Ava. She can easily just be like, I wanted to give her a pity vote. I'm sorry. I didn't want either of you to go. But for more than one person to do that, little bit of a piss take. That looks like a insurgents, do you know what I mean? So anyway, that is it. Sadly, Catherine has left the house. Catherine's exit interview was poor, to say the least. I mean, I don't care about the Riley situation. I didn't really care about her finding out about the judges. And they actually put Mickey's face up instead of Morgan, when Morgan did all the work this week. Let's put it real. But yeah, the exit interview was kind of boring. It was kind of bog standard. I don't think Catherine was a very interesting person at all in the house, because her entire story in the house was framed around Riley. And as someone who came in and was like, I'm a hardcore feminist, guys, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. In fact, didn't she vote out like the only woman to go out in this competition? And she tried to vote out women consistently. Am I wrong? I don't think women have been up on the block that much, to be fair. I'm trying to think. But anyway, either way, just not great. So how successful was Vince's head of household? Moderately to not very successful for him. For his game, I don't think this was a successful week. It was a successful week for a lot of other players, especially Morgan, Rachel, Ashley, Will, and Mickey. But for everybody else in the house, it was kind of piss poor. You got out a weak target in Catherine. Catherine wasn't exactly going to be making big moves. She can't really win competitions. The only veto that she won was by luck, pretty much. It wasn't skill, let's be honest. And last but not least, she wasn't a threat to Vince, I don't think, as much as the other side of the house. If Catherine was head of household, Mickey would have been up, Rachel would have been up, Ashley would have been up, Vince would have been safe. So I feel like this was a dumb decision from him. However, did I enjoy the chaos of this week? Did I enjoy the uncertainty? Did I enjoy the not knowing? Absolutely. It was so entertaining. Watching Keanu turn on Rachel and then having to backpedal when Rachel found out. Amazing. Incredible. It was just spectacular. Genuinely spectacular. Watching Rachel and Keanu just have an argument and him try and save himself, but she knows he's lying. It's just great to watch. It's great TV, and I think it's because Rachel knows the game so well that she's able to just pull these strings, and people are just willing to follow her at the end of the day. And I think if Vince had put up Rachel here, she would have stayed, and it also would have cost him the game, I feel like. So, you know what? Is what it is. That is all we've got time for today. So thank you guys very, very much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And join me later on this week for another episode of Big Brother. We are going to be counting down week 8. I think Keanu is head of household, so that is going to be crazy. But either way, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Keep on ranting. Bye now. See ya.